Well, hello, hello, hello there to all you wisdom walkers out there. This is Jojopahmaria Nsoroma coming to you with Wisdom Walk Talk for the month of June here on June 21st. And we're going to do a semi-annual review, our 6-month review of those collective commitments. And also I want to encourage you to, of course, review your annual commitments, your personal ones. But before I do anything, I, of course, want to first open up by honoring the ancestors. Yes. And today, before I even talk about my teachers, I want to honor my mama. um, June 21st was the last day that she took breath here on Earth, and so it's the anniversary of her death. And what a blessing to have had a mama like that. Her name was Dolores. So I'm calling out to Dolores, and I'm also calling out to Malidoma and Sobonfu Some from Land of the Proud Ancestors. And I invite you to call out to your ancestors as we invoke them on this first day of summer here in the Northern Hemisphere, and the first day of winter in the Southern Hemisphere. So join me as I do this invocation. Creator, Mother, Father, God, Source, all the one, all that is, may the ancestors hear our prayers. Ancestors, 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 we call out to you at the beginning of the third quarter of 2026. And thank you for now guiding us safely through our personal and collective challenges during this momentous water year. Thank you for always granting us access to our higher timeline, where we know that unconditional love of self is the ultimate reward for our self mastery, and that happy endings are our birthright, which we can learn to experience daily. As we navigate the unknown of 2026, give us easy access to the wisdom we gained last year and enable us to use this wisdom as we enter a whole new chapter on our never ending journey of self mastery. Enable us to become peaceful citizens and stewards of this new earth, daring greatly to live out our new narratives and knowing that these are divinely scripted for ourselves and for our world. And most importantly, thank you for contributing to enable us to move forth from the dark age, to enable us to move forth from the dark ages of modernity by placing our heads below our hearts, valuing people over profits, and always, always choosing love over fear. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I say amen. Ashe Ahoasa, Shinka Bismillah, and so it is. Okay. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So yeah, what an interesting day this has turned out to be. It's probably one of the stillest solstice times that I remember having in a long time, maybe ever. Because I've really been napping most of the day, and it feels good. I'm glad to be able to do that. But it's just interesting because usually, we think of summertime is the time we're going to go into motion more. We're going to go out. We're going to be out. But here in the Midwest, we have cloud coverage, and it's only about like maybe 72 at the most. So there's no full sunshine, and yeah, and it looks like it could rain any moment. So it's kind of this almost depressed energy, and that was really calling me to just stay still, stay in. It's okay. The sun will come out tomorrow, and you can move around more then. But I want to say happy solstice day, wisdom walkers. The Earth welcomes winter in the Southern Hemisphere and summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. And June 2026 is the second water month in this final water year of this decade. And it's also a time for our semi annual review of the five collective commitments. Now, as you know, to help us navigate successfully through this mind blowing time in human evolution, I've offered happy endings as our annual theme. And since January, I've been encouraging you to practice honoring vulnerability, the golden rule, grief and praise, the higher timeline, and right relations. So, in tonight's live stream, I'm going to take you on a journey to review and contemplate your progress on our collective self mastery commitments. Yes. I love this. I love, love, love getting to this point where we can do a review. And I love that we are, in this halfway point, according to, the sun calendar. We're at this halfway point right now in our journey with the sun. And it feels like, okay, like that's why I'm glad I got still today because it was like, yeah, just kind of pull back, get still, lay out, and just let yourself relax and rest and take in all of the good hard work that you've been doing over these last 6 months. Yeah. Yeah. So, I want to do this more consistently, which is to acknowledge the American monthly observances of cultural heritage and diversity. And in June, we have LGBTQIA plus Pride Month. And shout out to all of the persons who ascribe to this as part of their experience here on our planet. And God bless them. And the wisdom I keep, these are the gatekeepers. They got keys to all the gates in the cosmos. And they are very, very special and precious for us to be able to be here on this planet and to continue growing, healing, and evolving. Ashe. Also, it's National Caribbean American Heritage Month, which I just found out at the beginning of this month. And so a shout out to everyone who identifies as that. And where would we be without the Caribbean and all of the wondrous things that remind us, oh, yes, there is paradise on earth. And on Friday, there was a celebration of Juneteenth. And I just learned that there's a woman who is called the grandmother of Juneteenth because in her story, what happened is it was on Juneteenth when her family, one of the first Black families in this part of Fort Worth, Texas, a mob came and drove them out of their house and destroyed all of their possessions. Yeah. And so this happened when she was about 11 years old. And so that set her sacred contract ambition to make Juneteenth get recognized as a federal holiday. And so she was very instrumental in making that come about in 2021. So shout out to Opal May and of course to everyone in this country who understands why Juneteenth is something that we all need to be celebrating. Absolutely. And then it's Father's Day. Yes. And as Barack Obama has said, any fool can have a child. That doesn't make you a father. It's the courage to raise a child that makes you a father. So, blessings to all of the men who have that courage and who act on that courage, who have learned how to act on that courage. And where would we be without the fathers? So important. So, happy Father's Day. And then, as I've said, today is the summer solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere. It is the longest day. The sun will not set where I am until, you ready for this? 8:49 p.m. Yes, that's sunset. And it's the shortest night. Yeah, because the sun is gonna come up, I think, maybe at, like, 4:30, something like that, yeah. And then from here, of course, everything begins to move backwards into going on the journey towards the winter solstice, absolutely. And thank you, Daphne just corrected me when I talked about Juneteenth, it wasn't Opal May, it's Opal Lee is her name. Thank you, Daphne. I'm so glad you were here listening. Absolutely. So many things at once. Love it. That's what Daphne says. Yeah, I mean, today it's really full. It's packed. That's why I said I was napping all day. Like the energy has been really, really big. So, 2026, yes, 2026, it really is a turning point year. And let me just remind you again about the elements of this year that define it, help shape it for us. Excuse me, let me get a drink of water. Ah, and Master Chun Yi Lin says that 2026 marks a cosmic alignment that happens once every 60 years. Ancient wisdom tells us that every 6 decades, the energies of the universe align in a rare configuration, opening a portal where profound transformation becomes possible, where karma can be cleansed, where destiny can be rewritten. And of course, we all want that. Yeah. And I truly believe this energy is in operation. And again, as I said, this is a water year according to the Dagger of Wisdom. And what does that mean for those of you who may not know? Water is called Kwan in the Dagara, and water calls us to inner peace and encourages a positive slowdown that permits one to notice things that are usually overlooked at a high speed. And for this reason, water is associated with focus. And that's why we need water people in this in our culture, because the fire people like me, we be you know and so we need the water people to not only slow us down but cool us down and help us really get to that inner peace. Yeah, and the water person thinks of community, relations, love, and harmony. Absolutely. And so there are several people that I know who were born in 1966, so this is a very, very powerful and potent time for them, because I believe this is a time for all the water people on the planet to step up and show up more than what they usually do. We really need their presence and their leadership. Absolutely. Now, 2026 numerologically is a 1 year, and this year invites us to live a new story with happy endings. Yes. So the universal one, it's the beginning of an entirely new 9 year numerology cycle that will unfold through 2034. Year one represents initiation, identity, courage, and creation. It's a spark that lights the fire, and whatever is ignited now has the potential to shape the next 9 years of your life. Yes. So just think about that and want to be more conscious in the old identities and relationships and structures that you are releasing, because now is a time for us to really focus on and step into something new. And this isn't about rushing or forcing momentum, it's about taking intentional first steps toward the life you truly want. Don't be afraid to dream big this year, and I mean big. No vision is too ambitious to begin now. Yeah. Isn't that wonderful? And Miss Kathy Brown is here. Hi, Miss Kathy Brown. Good to have you here. Thank you for letting me know. Wonderful. But yeah, it's important that we remember all of this energy act into this year so we can take full advantage of it. And don't forget about this. According to the Chinese astrology, this is a fire horse year, which emphasizes independence, bold change, increased social opportunities, and creative self expression. And for those of you that follow me with the astrology for self mastery, you know that Chiron, which I just did a special report on, has been in the sign of Aries for the last 8 years. And these are the things that Chiron was working on for us in Aries, getting us to be independent, sovereign, to really take hold of our identity, to claim it, to live it, to not apologize for it, yeah. And so the fire horse energy, it just comes along to say, "Yep, yep, yep, it's time. Here we are. Creative self-expression. Love it. Love it." And so the theme for this year that I thought was so important for us to really, really dig our heels into is about having our happy endings. And I wrote about this in my book in chapter 3. Life is meant for happy endings. As I said before, if you want to have happy endings in life, you must first believe in them. This is not an easy thing to do, especially if your pain body is in charge of your life. Making anyone or anything besides you and your God responsible for your happy endings can also be a huge barrier along your journey to fulfillment. So it is something that I truly believe in and want to keep helping everybody realize how important and how necessary it is. Because if we're only living unhappy endings and not getting the gifts, the treasure in it, because I believe unhappy endings show up to get us to happy endings. And I also believe that we can every day grow our consciousness to realize that, oh my goodness, I'm having a happy ending right now. For example, the fact that I was able to get up off the couch, pull myself together and sit here in front of my camera to share this information with you. Oh my God, what a happy ending for me. This is like so wonderful. And if I get through this and I feel like I really did do what I was supposed to do and that I really honored all of this wisdom and information that flows through me for you, oh, huge happy ending, absolutely. And so I want us to have that level of consciousness, especially going forward from this midpoint in 2026. We really need to realize that we are not here to suffer and struggle. We are not here to just survive. We are here to live our happy endings every every day. Yeah. And in order to have our happy endings, it requires these 5 commitments: vulnerability, self love, unhappy endings, growth mindset, and emotional nutrition. Oh, I just love that phrase, emotional nutrition. Not drama, rama, trauma that pulls us off center. No, emotional nutrition, right? Where we're being validated, where we're being reminded how divinely connected we really are. Absolutely. And so I got guided to really use the word honor in front of the 5 commitments that I'll share because honor is the metaphysical field in which dignity, truth, and purpose can coexist without distortion. The idea of honoring as an action is to recognize, respect, or dignify someone or something. It's the environment needed for souls to grow and communities to evolve, not by force, but by resonance. I just have to feel that. Feel that. It's just not by force, by resonance. Yeah. When things align. when things are in flow, not fear. Yeah, that's resonance. When things make us feel like, yeah, I'm supposed to be alive right now. There's nothing wrong with me being alive. I'm supposed to be alive right now. That's resonance. Yeah. And that's something we work to get to. We work to get to that. We have to heal whatever has kept us from believing that we are supposed to be here and to be here having our happy endings daily. Yeah, we absolutely have to do that. Yeah. Daphne says, in flow, not fear. Yes, exactly. Exactly. This water year. So, the 5 honorings, one is honor vulnerability, honor the golden rule, honor grief and praise, honor the higher timeline, and honor right relations. So I'm going to take you on this journey now and go through each of those as the way that I presented them to you starting in January. And the first one is vulnerability. And I didn't do a full presentation on it because I knew I had to get in the information about the other 4 commitments. But November, I will really do a very focused and supportive presentation for you about vulnerability, what it is, what it's not, and how it makes such a difference to us having our happy endings. Yeah. And as it says here, without vulnerability, there is no love, no belonging, and no joy. Having happy endings requires emotional courage. Yeah. And open to receiving emotional nutrition. So, vulnerability, it's that uncertainty, the risk, the emotional exposure. Yes, it's scary. And yes, we're open to being hurt. But can you imagine your life without loving or being loved? Facing vulnerability takes enormous courage because vulnerability is also a pathway to deep and meaningful experiences in your life. Vulnerability is the birthplace for love, belonging, joy, courage, creativity, and peacemaking. And I borrowed much of this from Brene Brown, who did that fabulous TED Talk breaking down what vulnerability is for us for this new earth experience. So let's do some contemplative. I really suggest that you do some writing with this, but again, do what you need to do in the way you need to do it because the most important thing here is that you are really taking a moment to give yourself permission to say, what is going on with how I am experiencing this commitment process. And Kathy Brown says, so true from what I was saying before. Thank you, Kathy. So, yeah, get out your journal. Get out your journal if you have it. Take notes on your phone, whatever you need to do. But here we go. How have you experienced vulnerability over the last 6 months? Just think about that. And stories will come to you. You will remember, you'll get some stories. And even just if a little memory shoots up for a situation, yeah, just write that down. Make a note about it. Like, oh yeah, Christmas time. Or a holiday season. It wouldn't be in 2025. Or New Year's, around New Year's time, think about that. Yeah. Also, what's important to contemplate, what did you learn about yourself through this experience of vulnerability, of taking that risk, of opening yourself up to love, creativity, kindness even, right? How did this grow your self-mastery? Yeah. How did this help you become more in charge of you versus your self-sabotaging self, which is another term for the pain body? How did it grow your self-mastery? And then lastly, how did this support you having happy endings daily? Yeah. Next, the golden rule, honoring it. The golden rule is not moral instruction, it's soul behavior. When I honor you, I honor myself. When I harm you, I create a disturbance in the field that I also inhabit. Having happy endings requires self love. The golden rule requires a foundation of self love. If I secretly dislike or devalue myself, then treating you as I treat myself might not be kind at all. Many cultures note this subtle paradox. The golden rule presumes a healthy relationship with the self. And again, we usually hear it as do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? And so this was in February, and I presented this information about unlocking self love. Unlocking self love. And in summary, I talked about self love is a daily responsibility, not an indulgence. We are human and imperfect, but we have the power to shift from hating ourselves to loving ourselves more deeply every day. Ashe. I talked about spiritual practices that help unlock self love. Of course, forgiveness, behavior boundary setting. And I even talked about the Vipassana mindfulness meditation that the Venerable Walk for Peace monks have been teaching all over the world. Yeah. And that all of this will unlock our self love. So here's our contemplative questions. Same questions, just a different focus. How have you experienced the golden rule over the last 6 months? Think about that. Try to write it down. Try to capture that. That do unto others from loving yourself, from a place of loving yourself, not from a place of judgment or fear. Doing meritorious deeds, as Bhikkhu Panakara, the venerable monk for peace, talks about. Meritorious deeds. And in doing this, experiencing the golden rule, how did you learn? What did you learn about yourself? Now, it could also be that you experience somebody sharing the golden rule with you. Yeah. So if you have both of those experiences where you did it, but then where you experienced it from someone, yeah, that would be really super cool. And what did you learn about yourself? How did this grow your self mastery, your ability to feel that you don't have to give your power away in order to be loved, in order to be treated with respect and kindness and compassion? Yeah. And then how did this support you having happy endings daily? Yeah, wondrous stuff. Next, in March, we talked about honoring grief and praise. Grief is praise because it is the natural way love honors what it misses. Having happy endings requires honoring unhappy endings. Grief is not a disorder, a disease, or a sign of weakness. It is an emotional, physical, and spiritual necessity, the price you pay for love. If we do not grieve what we miss, we are not praising what we love. If we do not praise whom we miss, we are ourselves in some way dead. So grief and praise make us alive. And this is from the wonderful shaman, keeper of Zutahil, Guatemalan indigenous wisdom. Yeah, Martin Prechtel. And so for grief and praise, I focused on the higher purpose of unhappy endings so that we could learn more how to more deeply accept them. Yeah. And I talked about the level of oneness consciousness. Unhappy endings are messages from a greater order and direction that it's time to go on a journey to heal, to grow, to evolve. It is understood that happy endings are designed to ground and plant you, and unhappy endings are designed to uproot and move you to a new experience. If we ignore the call to experience, accept, and embrace the unhappy endings, we will never be able to experience, accept, and embrace the happy endings. Absolutely. Mhm. I also um, pulled from Martine Prechtel's wonderful book on the smell of rain on dust about grief and praise, where he talks about modern culture suppresses deep human nature and the art of grief. Grief is natural and necessary. Our first song is grief. It's babies scream when they come out, the primal loss of birth. Young infatuation is grief for the divine, not just a person. Grief is praise, love's way of honoring what is missed. Community or nature is essential for real grieving, meaning you need to be supported. You need to feel safe in order to do real grieving. Ungrieved loss becomes toxic, causing addiction and generational haunting. Whew. Revenge is frozen grief, manipulated for power and gain. Ungrieved war creates a black hole of loss, demanding more violence. Yes. He also talked about if you do not grieve who or what you love, you're not able to praise who or what you love. Grief is a form of praise for life, what you miss, what you loved, what you lost. True praise includes the feeling of grief. This is honoring and accepting mortality. When you're grieving for the thing you got, it's praise. When you're praising for the thing you lost, it's grief. Grief is not sadness, it's not depression or suffering. Depression is a lack of grief. Grief and praise are conjoined. You can have one without you can't have one, it should say, without the other. And how does this relate to unhappy endings? Grieving equals acceptance of unhappy endings. Yeah. And I just want to emphasize that, hey, Maria Brown, good evening to you. I just want to emphasize that, in our culture, it is very, very hard to allow ourselves to experience grief. When people go to funerals, they really are trying to keep it all together. Um, and it's not a good thing. We need to be able to really go crazy and pull our hair out and, really, really be supported in feeling that pain and releasing it, because grief is about releasing, it's not about holding on to pain. Depression is holding on to pain. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I also gave contemplative questions around grief because I asked you to think back to one unhappy ending in your life and contemplate. Were you able to grieve and accept it? Or are you still disturbed by that situation? If you accepted it, what or who supported you in doing that? If you've answered the call from the unhappy ending, how have you healed, grown, and evolved as a result? If it still disturbs you, are you willing to let go of your suffering? And if not, why not? What supports you? What support do you believe you need to accept, embrace, and answer the call to heal, grow, and evolve. And so, this journey in March through the grief and praise is really, really, really powerful, really powerful. And so, yeah, well, let's contemplate that. How have you experienced grief and praise over the last 6 months? What did you learn about yourself? How did this grow your self mastery? How did this support you having happy endings daily? Yeah, absolutely. So next, one of my favorites, the higher timeline. The higher timeline represents a moment when the human vessel finally remembers its design intention. That evolution is not about escaping the human condition, but sanctifying it. Having happy endings requires a growth mindset. The higher timeline is the evolutionary path where the wound becomes wisdom, the pain body becomes the oracle, and the human being remembers how to sanctify life. Wow. Transmuting suffering into purpose, shadow into genius, and destiny into conscious creation. Yes, I love it. And so in April, I talked about honoring the higher timeline by really becoming more conscious about, am I in a situation to evolve or am I avoiding it? So evolution versus avoidance. Yeah. And what I just read, I call that the poetic definition of the higher timeline. And what it ultimately means is simply humanity remembering how to grow up spiritually without abandoning our bodies, our pain, or each other. It is the emergence of a human being who feels without drowning, loves without losing self, creates without needing perfection, leads without dominating, and serves without sacrificing soul. So ultimately, it means that you know how to stay in your sovereignty. You know not to give your power away in order to be alive. Wow, very powerful. And of course, I love this picture, my favorite picture about the higher timeline. And so I talked about three practical steps for accessing the higher timeline because, this stuff is very abstract. And so people will, when I'm working with my clients, they'll say, okay, Judge Bob, well, how do I get to the higher timeline? Yeah. Because it is a state of consciousness and ultimately a state of being. So the first thing is to sit in the pain. You got to call up your courage. This is where pain becomes information, anger becomes clarity, and grief becomes love in motion. Most people leave the timeline here by avoiding the heat. The higher timeline is entered by enduring the fire consciously, meaning you have to go through it. You gotta let yourself feel the pain, and it's the only way to release the pain anyway. But this is the first thing. When you choose to sit in your pain, you're already traveling to the higher timeline. Next, it's about embracing your shadow, connecting with your pain body. You name what it actually is present, emotion, the pattern, the wound. You drop the story of blame or victimhood and you ask, what is this trying to evolve in me? This gateway is a willingness to see clearly without collapsing or performing. This shifts you from reacting to life to reading life as an initiation. And initiation is all about soul growth. Yeah. Without this step, the higher timeline cannot open because distortion locks us into repetition. Yeah, that lower timeline stuff. Absolutely. And then the third is about patience and respecting the process. You don't give up on yourself. You practice being aware of and surrendering to the present moment. When you get impatient or anxious, you use meditative breathing, journaling, a creative expression, using your hands, connecting with nature, talking with a trusted friend, etc. Ask daily, what is changing in me now, right now? What is changing in me right now? Yes. And you use personal and the collective commitments weekly to remind you of the fact that you know where you're headed and you have a reliable compass. Yeah. And when you're doing that, when you're working with these commitments, the collective and the personal, you definitely are in the territory of the higher timeline. You're freeing yourself up from the lower timeline pain with its very, very boxed in perspectives about what is happening. Yeah. So, accessing the higher timeline is not just about being positive, transcending pain, or becoming better. It's most importantly about becoming honest, more embodied, and more aligned consistently. You access the higher timeline every time you choose evolution over avoidance. So, here's our contemplative questions. How have you experienced the higher timeline over the last 6 months? How have you chosen to leave behind what you think you know and open up to learning what is the hidden or higher truth in a situation that I find myself in? And of course, what did you learn about yourself when you go to that higher timeline? When you sit in that pain rather than avoiding it or sedating it or making it be about somebody else's pain. Yeah. How did this grow your self mastery? How did this inform your ability to love yourself and to take care of yourself? How did this support you having happy endings daily? Yeah. Because I swear by higher timeline to have my happy endings. Absolutely. Without the higher timeline, I don't think I could do my daily happy endings. Absolutely. And next, last but not least, another one of my really delicious ones, honoring right relations. We come to know ourselves most clearly through those who can see us without distortion. Right relations offer that mirror. Having happy endings requires emotional nutrition. Right relations are essential to fulfillment because we do not complete our becoming alone. Right relations support rather than stall are becoming the best version of ourselves. Right relations do not entangle us, they encourage us. Absolutely. And they validate us. And so this was in May, and I focused on upgrading your relational field. Yes. So that you can have experiences with people who can support and give you the experience of right relations, right? And so I broke that down, first talking about the indigenous definition of right relations, which is an aspirational way to connect with yourself and others. Right relations doesn't have to be taught, it has to be remembered and practiced. And right relations is an experience that's accessed through the loving heart, which awakens the soul and grows the human capacity to experience happy endings daily. Yes, yes, yes. And so I went through the postmodern relational field to show you these 6 elements for upgrading, which include emotional intelligence, moral intelligence, social intelligence, spiritual intelligence, and of course, self-mastery. Yes. And then I gave you some exercises to determine what in your relationship experience needs upgrading. And so I talked about purpose of relationship. And if it's transactional or lower timeline, it'll be things like seeking relief, validation, protection, making trauma bonds and dependency, mutual distraction, unconscious contracts, don't abandon me and I won't evolve past you. And if it's a deep heart or higher timeline relationship, it seeks growth, witnessing, resonance, and shared purpose. There's mutual empowerment in service of each other's soul growth. Conscious contract. I support your evolution and you support mine. Absolutely. And then I talked about the emotional landscape, also breaking it down to what the transactional looks like versus the deep heart. Is it dysregulation, reactivity, or is it emotional honesty and curiosity? And then I talked about fulfillment and belonging. Transactionality, lower timeline is loneliness inside relationship, belonging negotiated through self abandonment, and fulfillment blocked by unspoken agreements. In the deep heart, higher timeline, it's genuine belonging without shrinking. Fulfillment emerges through contribution and witnessing. Family, friends, and community are woven into the fabric of the relationship versus being shut out. Yeah. And by the way, the symbol you see here between the clay statue that represents community and the open deep heart, that's the symbol for um, kindness, loving kindness, and compassion. Yeah, and that is a Chinese symbol, loving kindness and compassion. And then in closing, I summarize right relations is what we aspire to through consciously and unconditionally loving ourselves. Self love is a daily responsibility, not an indulgence. We are human and imperfect, but we have the power to shift from hating to loving ourselves more deeply every day. Ashe. And so think back. How have you experienced right relations over the last 6 months? What did you learn about yourself? How did this grow your self mastery? And how did this support you having happy endings daily? Now, I am going to definitely put timestamps in for you, hopefully by Wednesday of this week, so that if you want to just go and look at the contemplative questions or look at a particular collective commitment, you can more easily do that. And just use this as a reference guide. But it's a really, really very powerful way to help us stay the course this year and not be pulled off center by whatever craziness and hysteria is going on, because those are things we don't have control over. Those are things that go up into the realm of a greater order and direction. Yeah. Brought to us for a reason that we can't understand. I will never understand a reason for war, but I trust my God and I know that unfortunately it's doing something to help us evolve, like getting us to say no more war. This is too painful. This is too much. We don't want to go through this. But those things we have no control over, but what we do have control over is ourselves. And I believe what, the venerable monks are teaching, if we take on getting to our peacefulness individually and then sharing that with the people around us, Oh, yeah, then we'll get peace in the world. Then we'll see things shift and change. And so I truly, truly believe that. And so that's why doing this contemplative work is really important. And then if you have your personal commitments, like I made my personal commitments off of the collective ones. For example, with vulnerability, I have a commitment to really become more conscious of my control drama. One of the things related to post traumatic stress, where the trauma was that your power was taken away from you, like in sexual abuse, is that you feel you have to control everybody and everything around you in order to be safe. And so over the years, I've really gotten to see how that really pushes people away from me. It has me lose out on opportunities because I'm acting like I know it all. And so I'm really, really staying very conscious to become more aware of when that pops up, what's going on around me that I don't feel safe, and how to take care of it, how to stop it, and then how to get myself safe by whatever means possible, but to not feel like I can be in control of everybody and everything in order to be okay. No, I need to go and get myself some emotional nutrition. That's what I need to do. Yeah. And so that's how I've been using the collective commitments. And I do look them over every week. And I ask myself, okay, how are you doing, Jojopah, with that control drama, transformation? How's that going? Are you doing better? And I write it down, so I can look back and see my growth. I think that's an important thing we need to do because, taking on our healing is very abstract, and there's things you do that may not show up for a number of years. But if you're keeping track of, yeah, I learned this about myself. My self mastery feels so much stronger. I'm no longer doing this, or this happened and it helped me shift. That's really important. Yeah. Because you won't have to rely on other people to tell you that you're doing okay. You're going to know it because you're keeping track. Yeah. And using these compasses that I've thrown out to you, that I've offered you, to take part of, to also help. The more we stay conscious about what we are doing and what's going on for us, the better. So be wary of doom scrolling on your phone, on your pad, on your television, you know, because that's time you could be using to manage how you're navigating yourself and what you can control, what's going on around you. Yeah, yeah. So I hope this is helpful for you. I'm excited for what's going to come for these next 6 months. And I think that if we can remember to really, take care of ourselves in this higher timeline way, yeah, we're gonna end this year on a very, very, very high note. Yeah, that's what I think. So here's my quote from the Sarah for this month. Don't keep talking about the problem. Focus on what you want. Absolutely. And I thought that was a real factor in Barack Obama's speech at the opening of the Obama Center, where he was really talking about what it is that we can do as a community, as a society, as a world to move forward from the dark ages of modernity, is what I call it. Yeah. So I have come to the close of our annual 6-month review. As always, I want to shout out to all my regular listeners and watchers, and all of those who have wisdom walk with me, and you know who you are. And those of you wisdom walking with me, you know who you are. To my family here in the Midwest, and to my family on the West Coast and on the East Coast, to my spiritual kin and my medicine brothers and sisters around the world, and those who are listening in for the first time. thank you. Big thank you. I couldn't do this without you and your willingness to listen and to watch. And I am so grateful to be of service to you in this way. And I thank you for your commitment to self mastery. Now, I have one more live stream that I will do here in June, which will be next Sunday, and it'll be the remainder of the astrology for this month. So I will talk about the Mercury retrograde and the full moon in Capricorn that is coming. Yeah. And I'll make reference to, of course, the um, Chiron moving into Taurus, which is pretty powerful, like really, really cool stuff. Yeah. I'm so happy about that. Absolutely. Thank you, Daphne. You are so welcome. Absolutely. And my promos for First Queen Adara, her Heart for Healing service, the first and third Wednesdays every month at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And you can get access to it through her website, spiritismylife.com. Click on events, and you can get the Zoom link, and it is absolutely free and very uplifting. And Adara is a very gifted and powerful healing woman who is just so great in her ability to connect with spirit and to pull your soul into that. Absolutely. And then I want to give a shout out to Juanita Roberson and Amy Houghton for their book, The Inner Ground Railroad, a 40-day journey to remembering soul and spirit. It uses the Dagra medicine wheel in a very, very beautiful way, keeps it walking, keeps it purposeful and accessible. And the book is available Amazon Kindle, Walmart, Ace Books, and other online sellers. Yeah, absolutely. And so, my dears, and of course, you know my book, you can see it here and you can see it here. Boop, boop, boop. So, my dears, last but not least, I want to thank my God, my ancestors, my spirit guides, loving entities, everything that walks with me, keeps my head to the sky, my feet to the ground, and my heart open to do this important work with and for all of you. So please have a very healthy and safe nature week that we're in that started on Thursday. Welcoming change required for deep heart love and being courageous for the new. Now, continue to strengthen your immune systems, protect your nervous system primarily by praying for others rather than taking on their pain. And most importantly, so, so importantly, my darlings, please, please remember that you are not and never were disposable. And that is because you are divine. Good night now.